artists began to arrive, sharing the community with its more established residents. As the century turned, New Hope remained a quaint village, its population a mix of locals and artists. Slowly, word of its reputation spread, and New Hope changed from a quiet river and canal community to a thriving artists' colony with theaters, restaurants, antique shops, art studios, and galleries. Relationships between newly arrived artists and the locals were maintained. However, many of the artists had bohemian views, both politically and in terms of lifestyle. In the 1940s and 50s, New Hope became known as a gathering place for both gay men and women. Over the years, New Hope has proudly maintained its old historic character. It has buildings that date back to the 17 and 1800s still standing to remind visitors of a bygone era. The Bucks County Playhouse, known internationally, opened its doors in 1939 and was on the summer stock circuit and featured many Hollywood stars. Shirley Booth is seen performing at the Bucks County Playhouse.
Oh, darling, you surely know after all these years you can trust me.
A little lighter.
Lighter?
More comedy.
Oh, I see. He means more like radio. Oh, certainly, I'd be glad to.
New Hope has had many show business personalities as residents. Here's old footage of Oscar Hammerstein, shown in New Hope. George S. Kaufman also lived locally and is shown here after a Playhouse performance. In 1926, Phillips Mill began an annual exhibition of Pennsylvania Impressionists. This tradition continues to the present day. One of the most widely recognized painters, Edward Redfield, known for his snow scenes, painted this rendition of Phillips Mill in 1934.
He did nothing. He studied to be a portrait painter, but he had to paint what he saw, not what the subject wanted to look like. So he developed this technique of painting a picture in one, what he called one go, that is one day. He would select the spot he was going to paint the day before, and by daybreak he would be there, set up with his easel and everything ready to start painting. And every day that he left, Mother Redfield was packing the lunch, and every day he would come home with the lunch untouched. He couldn't take away any time from his first love, painting, or his second love, eating. I presume he was a struggling artist, but I don't think he ever thought of himself in that aspect. He painted because he had to paint. That was his life. But he had a wonderful garden, and Mother Redfield was a miraculous cook. She could make a banquet out of what would be thrown away in the extravagant era of today.
Edward Redfield was born in 1869 in Bridgeville, Delaware. He studied at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts and was sent to Paris by his father to study at the École des Beaux-Arts. It was there that he became fascinated with snow scenes, where he was painting the forests of Fontainebleau. In 1898, Redfield and his French wife moved to a house along the Canal towpath in Bucks County outside of New Hope. At this time, he became acknowledged as the central figure in the growing school of Pennsylvania landscape painting. Nye Alley is a secluded passageway in the center of New Hope, which is tied into the artistic history of this community. This alley was named after one of New Hope's most prominent modernist painters, William Lloyd Nye, who lived and worked in New Hope from 1924 to 1964. Before his death, he built his own museum. Nye's non-objective paintings were included in 15 years of exhibitions at the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. When Nye was not painting, he had a job as a night foreman at the local brick factory. Part of his pay was in discarded bricks, which he took home and used to create this walled-in courtyard at the Towpath restaurant along the canal. This restaurant was known as Cesspool Annie's. Previously, it served as a tavern for owners of the mule barges. But even before that, during the Civil War, in the basement of this building, a tunnel was built, which hid slaves, for it was a stop on the Underground Railroad.
Well, he was a true painter and painted every day of his life for 50 years, mostly here in New Hope, some in Mexico and a little bit in Florida. And he was born March 8th, 1893, and he was an only child too. And he came to New Hope because it was cheap and beautiful, which I'm not too sure I can say the same today. I did hear a city planner on the radio say that the neighborhood goes downhill when the upper middle class move in. He won a crescent and went to Paris in the 20s and finally settled in New Hope in 1929. It took him 20 years to get past his academic training, and he really didn't have a great feeling for the art education he got, because in those days they used calipers to get the right dimensions of a face, etc. And my mother said, well, it would have taken him 20 years anyway to develop a style of his own. During the WPA period, he got a commission to do a mural for the post office in Youngstown, Ohio, and that mural's still up, and it's a handsome mural. Mechanic Street was the hottest street in town, and it was throughout my childhood and my children's childhood, with great music and great characters. And I remember my father would hang his paintings out. He had a little show going just out of doors on weekends, and these were beautiful, beautiful paintings.
Bill Nye was in the process then of building his museum and living in that area. He also, at that time, owned what is now Jeff Green's property, which at that time was called the Pink Lemonade. Now, the Pink Lemonade stand, and whatever, and that started out as a restaurant, I think, back around in the 50s. Bill Nye finally finished his museum in 1965. He also died in 1965. I didn't really talk with him a great deal, but knew a lot about him. And as far as my concern was, Bill Nye was the most contemporary artist in this area at that time, and probably to some degree still is. He experimented on all types of materials and works in terms of expression. Some from the abstract routine to later in his time to doing portraits of people of the area, people that lived here at that time.
The development of New Hope as a community evolved in the 1800s, not only around the Delaware Canal, but also because of a spring originally called Aquatong Spring, located several miles from the village center. This spring was a mystic and spiritual gathering place for the Lenape Indians, the area's first inhabitants. Aquatong Spring, today known as Ingham Springs, served as a summer retreat for the Indians, and its waters had the reputation of having curative powers. The mills which were established along this spring serve as a source of inspiration for the painters that began settling here, especially Robert Spencer, who arrived in this area in 1906 after studying with William Merritt Chase and Robert Henry in New York. From 1906 through 1910, Spencer lived in towns with close proximity to the Delaware River, including Frenchtown, New Jersey, and Point Pleasant, Pennsylvania. During 1909, Spencer studied with Daniel Garber at Garber's home in Bucks County. One of Spencer's most praised depictions of working-class life is his Repairing the Bridge painting, which was purchased by the Metropolitan Museum of Art in 1914. Spencer lived and worked in the New Hope area until 1931, when he died as a result of taking his own life.
I lived across the street from that mill, across the stream, and I used to look at it every morning, and I said, you know, we're in the wrong house. If you take this stream, the side of the stream that I live on is the north side, so that you get the morning sun, and you get light and air. If you're on that side of the mill, on the south side, all you get is north light, you're only exposed to the north. So when I bought the mill out at which was called Simpson's Mill, only because Simpson was the people that had the silk industry there and were making silk products in the 20s and 30s. And we built that and lived in that. I always thought it was on the wrong side. It always should have been on the other side of the stream to get there, because we're up against the hill and couldn't get the morning light very well.
Daniel Garber was born in North Manchester, Indiana. At 17, he embarked on an art education and studied with Thomas Anschutz, William Merritt Chase, and Cecilia Beau at the Pennsylvania Academy. On June 21st, 1901, he married Mary Franklin, a fellow student at the Pennsylvania Academy. He began to teach life drawing classes at the Philadelphia School of Design for Women. In May 1905, Garber received a Crescent Fellowship from the Pennsylvania Academy, which enabled him to spend 2 years in England, France, and Italy, and he exhibited 3 paintings at the Paris Salon. In 1907, he and his wife moved to Lumberville, Pennsylvania, in the New Hope area, to a farm called Cuddaloosa. During this time, he received many awards for his Pennsylvania landscape paintings, and taught at the Academy for 41 years. Garber died in 1958 in a tragic accident as a result of him falling off a ladder outside his studio. His home was the source of his inspiration for many of his paintings. Garber was associated with several of the other Pennsylvania landscape painters in the area who yearly banded together for the show at Phillips Mill. At this time, a war broke out among the artists at the Phillips Mill show, which was the hub of the artistic community in the area. The dispute arising over the acceptance of the modernists' paintings who painted in a less traditional, more abstract format. The argument resulted in the modernists having their own show a few miles away on the same day. Redfield and Garber were the leaders of the Pennsylvania Impressionists. The movement soon attracted other artists. In 1915, these Bucks County artists were highly successful at a major exhibition in San Francisco that was part of the Panama Pacific International Exhibition and was considered a triumph for the Pennsylvania school. Phillips Mill was the center of this artistic area, not only because of the show, but also because several key artists lived there. William Langston Lathrop arrived in 1898. He was born in Warren, Illinois on March 19, 1859. Lathrop was largely self-taught. He studied for a few days with William Merritt Chase at the Art Students League in New York City, and was established as a landscape painter when he arrived in New Hope. He was considered the dean of the New Hope Art Colony. In 1889, he visited England, France, and Holland, and became acquainted with a lot of the leading American Impressionists and tonalists. Lathrop was elected president of the Phillips Mill Art Association in 1929, at the beginning of these important exhibitions.
He began his work in the art world as an etcher, and there are, I guess, some fine examples of his work out there in etching. He moved on to watercolor, and then moved on to oil. Phillips Mill was the social center of the artist colony. Lathrop having having arrived in 1903. And he gathered around him a lot of people he knew, Harry Snell, Spencer, Redfield, and they would get together for teas on Sunday that Mrs. Lathrop organized and put together and ran. These were really the times when the artists were able to get together and bounce ideas off each other, get to know new people coming in, and they were just really the social center of the community. He died in 1938 in the Great Hurricane. After he moved here, he painted, traveling down south. In 1929, I believe, he built himself a sailboat, small sailboat known as the Widge, and he would travel up and down the East Coast, mostly north to Long Island, farther north, I think, up to Maine at times, but all summer long. He'd be gone 6 months out of the year during sailing weather, and he would paint. And that's really what he did from 29 until 38, when he was drowned in the Great Hurricane.
Morgan Colt was born in Summit, New Jersey in 1876. He was trained as an architect, became noted as a master craftsman, establishing his Gothic shops on the Phillips Mill property. He produced paintings and exhibited at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine